She wanted the process by which people are trained to see other people as less than human to be revealed. And Iris was cognizant that it's extremely easy to do. And she wanted this event recorded because you don't know who in some future time in some other country reads this book and says, no, not me. I'm not going to let this happen in my country or in my place or in my town.
People are always arguing about the numbers of dead. They say it's 140,000, 300,000, but that's not even the point, because what we do know for sure is many more would have died if that small group of Westerners had not stayed behind and set up that 2.5 square mile safe haven in the middle of Nanking. I realized this was a story with heroes as well as villains. The most fascinating of all, I think, was John Rabe. He was the head of the Safety Zone Committee. He was a German businessman and, ironically, a Nazi humanitarian.
He would go throughout the city wearing his swastika armband, and the Japanese actually respected the Germans more than the Americans because they had a relationship with Germany at the time. And often he would drive through the city or walk through the city, and he would try to stop atrocities that were in progress.
He gave refuge to over 600 Chinese in his own house, and for days would go sleepless, ever vigilant of the constant threat of marauding Japanese soldiers looking for women. He and the other Westerners would risk their lives to collect and bring in food to the 200,000 in the safety zone. He also constantly petitioned the Japanese embassy in Nanking to stop the raping and murdering. Consequently, the people of Nanking called him the living Buddha. Rabe returned to Germany in February 1938 after the worst of the massacre was over. And then he just vanished. I could never get his story out of my mind, so I decided to find out what happened to him.
Finally, she located John Rabe's granddaughter, Ursula Reinhardt, and then she wrote to her, and Reinhardt told her there's a diary, and then Iris is so excited, and I think I remember she called me immediately. You know, he said, I not only found John Rabe, and he had a diary.
I tracked down the descendants of John Rabe in Germany and learned that he had kept a 2,000-page diary of the massacre, a diary which on various occasions the family had actually considered tossing out because the contents were too painful for them to read.
Ursula told me that when he returned from Nanking, he went around Berlin giving a series of public lectures and even sent Adolf Hitler a detailed report about the slaughter. A few days later, the Gestapo showed up at his house, and Rabe was told to never talk about Nanking ever again. After the war, because of his Nazi party membership, the Allies would not give him a work permit. So to survive, he sold his treasured Chinese artifacts and all his possessions until his family was reduced to living off acorn soup.
A letter from Chinese people arrived and told him how they adored him, how he had saved Chinese people, and they gathered money and sent care parcels to John Rabe.
Unfortunately, by then, Rabe was a very sick man, and a few years later, in 1950, he died of a stroke.
It's really hard to discredit the Rabe diaries. His evidence is far too powerful, and he can't be discredited anyway. I mean, he is a third-party witness to what happened. He was there on the scene. So how do you deny his reports?